Hello scientists, I'm Aegis Wolf. Welcome back to the gaming facility. This is episode 7 of a Let's Play that I'm doing on Abiotic Factor, which is being released on consoles on Xbox and PlayStation on the 22nd of July. If this is the first episode of mine that you are seeing, there'll be a link down in the description to go back to the start, to watch the start of the playlist from episode 1. And I'm just running through a lot of the starting stuff for the game. In today's episode, I'm going to go through and finally do some fishing, finally take care of some lighting, and I'm also possibly going to look at setting up some defenses around the entrance to the cafeteria area, and we might even look at what farming the robot that's in the main office foyer area looks like. So I'm going to start by crafting a fishing rod, which I've got the recipe pinned already for up in the top right hand corner. I've also gone through and added some more storage boxes in, just because my storage was starting to fill up, so this will give me a little bit more space to work now. So I'm just going to jump in and grab the items that I need. Now, I did discuss in a previous episode about pinning recipes, as well as how that makes it easier to find in your inventory stuff. Let's have a look. So I want fishing. So why is that not bringing up the recipe? I'm not sure what's happening there. Let me have a look. I might have to... What the hell? Weird. Okay, not sure what was going on there, but either way, we have the fishing rod set up now. And I'm just going to pop this stuff back. Put that back in electrical. So fishing is pretty straightforward to begin with. So you'll want to find any sort of body of water. So we've got one here. There's also one in the gym, up and through to the right, up there. We can fish from either of those, and it's pretty straightforward. Actually, I'm going to go up to the swimming pool just because it's going to make life a little bit easier to actually see what's happening. Now, fishing does get impacted by things like the time of day or night as well. So you'll sometimes catch different fish during the day versus during the night, depending on what part of the facility you're in, those kinds of things. Now, I haven't done any fishing in a while, so I'm trying to remember what happens with it. So I believe I've got to pull in the opposite direction to what it's moving, and then I've got to reel it in. There we go. And so I caught some bioscrap, and I got 60% in fishing. Now, as you increase your fishing, you'll be able to detect fishing hotspots and other things that come along with it. So all of this is pretty straightforward and simple. There's not a lot you can do to speed up the XP gain on this outside of like your normal XP boost stuff from things like soups or drinks or those kinds of things. So there's not really a way that you can sort of cheese this, as far as I know. That's just one of those things. I don't really spend a lot of time fishing in the game. Fishing's never been a huge thing that I've had an interest in. And so I haven't looked a lot into it. I do want to keep trying to fish, though, until I actually catch one. This is just so that we can actually go through and see what's involved in the fishing process. Not only from fishing, but also doing food prep, because fishing and cooking go together. And so I want to be able to go through and show that process, just so that you can all see what's required and how that works. Hopefully, I will catch a fish, as opposed to just catching junk. Not that junk isn't valuable, but when you're after fish specifically for cooking, then just catching junk can be a little bit of a pain in the neck. Now, what I'm doing here, the water trail that's coming off the bobber is the direction that I need to push the arrows in. So it'll be in one of the 4 different directions. So I've just caught a moonfish. So we can actually come into our database for it. Scroll down. So exactly why this creature has evolved and flowed. Yeah, so it's common in low light pools, so which implies that it's caught at nighttime. Now, in catching that, it's also given us the recipe for moonfish bait. So we can actually create the moonfish bait out of a slushy and a skip cookie that we can get from vending machines, and use that to catch more moonfish bait efficiently.
I can feel my blood sugar falling.
The fact that we're hungry is a bonus, because I will go and prepare the fish and we'll be able to eat it. I know the robot will be walking around somewhere. Yep. It's over there, so we'll look at tackling the robot a little bit later. So now that I have a fish, I can come to... So there's the food prep side of the bench, the cooking bench, and then there's the fish prepping side. So just click on this and click on the moonfish. That'll give us 2 moonfish fillets, raw fish bones, and fish oil. And fish oil can be used in a bunch of recipes and construction and blueprints and stuff down the line, so it'll be handy for us to have that as well. Let's see what else. Equipment. Okay, so I've just grabbed the other fry pan just so I can cook these up. Now, as far as I'm aware, one of the advantages of fishing, cooking and having fish is that we won't get irradiated because there's no radiation from fish, as far as I know. Just going to pop this in farming for now, just because I don't have a dedicated fishing chest. So, pop that in there, refill this. So, I like to make sure that I am boiling water every time that I come back to base. I should try and find or make a second pot so that I can be a bit more efficient with that. So, now we can see we've got the cooked moonfish fillet, which will fill 17 hunger, and we don't get irradiated from that, which is perfect. So I'm feeling a bit peckish, so chow down on that. Pop that away. Grab that, chow down on that as well. So that's sort of how fishing works. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. It's one of those things that thankfully it doesn't take a lot of fishing to level up. Sort of got a fairly decent chunk of XP when you do it. So you don't have to spend too much time trying to get a few levels in it. Okay. Away. Let's pop it in there now. Okay, so the next thing that I want to focus on is getting a bit more lighting around the place. So I'm going to go a little bit of farming. Let's drop off as well. So we're going to do a little bit of exploring just to try and get some lamps. Might come in here and take care of this area. There's a lamp post in there as well. So it's handy to come through and pick up all this stuff. We use coils and power bricks and power supply units, all the time, so I'll get package that up. So, and that gives us the recipe that we need for the makeshift spear, which is the sharp melee weapon that we first get access to, outside of like the knife, that sort of stuff. Okay. Now I don't have a screwdriver on me to break down furniture, which is possibly a little bit of an oversight on my behalf, but I'm not too worried about that at the moment. So we're going to come here, and I know another lamp here, so break that down. And we will grab this water cooler as well. So I'm going to need to make an energy brick to come back to here, open that door later on. And for now, I'll be able to go back and have a little bit more light in my base so that when things go off at night, I'll still be able to see. Weirdly enough, lamps don't need to be plugged into your electrical grid, and they don't consume any power for whatever reason that's been decided. But it is handy. It means that I can go through and light up my base without having to worry about where I place the lights or where their power supply is coming from. So I would like to be able to tuck it in there if I can. Oh, I might drop this first. That's quite heavy. And that'll just give us some water to work with as well. Now I can turn that on. Put the other one there. So this is just going to keep this area a little bit more lit, and it'll be a little bit easier for me to work in, even when the power goes out at night. Okay, so the next thing that I want to look at is trying to focus on getting some defenses set up in this area. So let's go through and dump the supplies that we picked up. And I will grab screwdriver. I do actually need one. Now, when setting up our base defenses, there's a few different tools that we can work with. Having some barricades is a good way to funnel enemies. So for that, you're going to need paper scrap and wood. I also want to set up a choppinator. Now, the choppinator is one of the things that uses oil, and you can see, even though it's got oil in the bottle there, you can use fish oil for the choppinator as well. So that's going to be really handy to make some of that kind of stuff. So let's grab our supplies, stuff in the office. I'm probably going to need a battery as well to hook things up too. So I know that I'm going to need those text. I have text scrap. So it's always worth having a couple of empty bricks floating around if you don't have already. Running low on metal scrap as well. Okay. So I can break down cafeteria table. That I can use that to make a battery. So the battery I'm going to try and have a little bit further on, just because I'm going to specifically want to isolate it for the choppinator trap. The other things that I want to make, we'll go through and sort out as well. So I'm going to want a couple of barricades. And this is just so that we can funnel enemies that are trying to come into the cafeteria area. So what I like to do is I've sort of placed coming to cafeteria area. That way it sort of forces enemies to come through this little sort of bottleneck. We can set choppinator up there. Once we've collected more metal scrap. And it just makes enemies a little bit easier to deal with in the in the long term, short term. Used to be able to stack these on fairly easily. Doesn't look like you can stack easily anymore, which is a little bit annoying. Oh, that's alright. That's not a huge issue. What I will do for now is I'll just pop these in my constructed section. I'm going to break down a couple of these metal pipes as well, just so that we can make that choppinator that we were looking at before. We're going to take this choppinator and we can orientate it like this, and so that way any enemies trying to run through here will run into the choppinator. So I might change how I set this up, given that I can't stack the barricades on top of each other the way that I was previously. But I might play with that between episodes and off screen. Okay. So the next thing that we want to do, going to just pop this down here, grab a plug and plug that in. Now this is where utilizing something that I've talked about previously with tech scrap is going to come in handy. Oh, I've got the tech scrap on me already. This is where this is going to come in handy because I can connect the tech scrap and then use this to plug that in directly. So what will happen is, as enemies try and come through here, they'll get hit by that. Again, I might deal with this off screen and pop this here, and sort of see how that works. So I'm also going to want to make a second battery because that's going to be useful for me, because we're going to be using the can't salvage that. So I want more metal scrap. So what I might do is break down those. You can break down some of the items that you have. Let's see. You can break down some of the items that you have, some of the tools, and you will get metal scrap off some of them. It just sort of depends on the item itself. Okay, so let's now make a second choppinator. So now we've got our second choppinator. We have, what else do we need? Okay, brick we wanted. And I want 2 more metal battery. I'm starting to run a little bit low on metal scrap. Unfortunately, I can't break down flashlights. Okay, so I'm going to break down one of these knives and break down stapler just so I can make that battery. And what I can do is come out here where the robot is. Now the robots only come online at night. They'll come out of this docking bay and patrol around the area. What we can do is we can set up Choppinator here, and then coming over here I can connect to the socket, and using tech scrap button, using tech scrap I can run a line around and connect it to the Choppinator. Oh, actually what I'll do is connect that. I'm going to connect it to a battery and then connect that to the Choppinator. And that'll just ensure that when the power goes off at night time, the Choppinator will still be working. Now from here, I can actually duck under the Choppinator entirely. I'm perfectly fine. So what I can do is start to attack the robot charging pod, and that's going to activate Once that green bar goes down to 0, that's going to activate the robot. And because of the way that we've got the Choppinator set up, that's going to come online, and then the Choppinator's going to do damage to it. It will take a little bit for it to wear it down. But as you can see, if we stay on the other side of the Choppinator, we're actually perfectly fine. Now this breaks down the robot into a bunch of material for us. Let me drink one of the drinks. So this is a renewable way to get a bunch of different resources, such as circuit boards and metal scrap. You can see that I was struggling for metal scrap before. Now I have 12 metal scrap. I've also got robot oil out of it. So this is a pretty easy farmable way, because these will respawn every cycle, every day-night cycle. It's an easy way for me to come back and farm this, and I may occasionally have to repair the Choppinator.
Locate a restroom.
But I can come back and farm this over and over again without it ever running out, which is a good way for me to start to get some of these repeatable or sustainable resources, such as the metal scrap or circuit boards or those kinds of things. And even then I can break those down to get tech scrap and that sort of stuff. Cool, so I'm going to wrap it up here. It's been a little bit of a longer episode than my previous episodes, but that's fine. I'm going to play around with this setup off screen. And then when we come back in episode 8, we are going to be finally looking at doing a little bit of exploring, progressing the story a little bit, and finding someone who knows about power cells. We may also look at expanding our farm a little bit more, just because I haven't given that any care, or we can see that it's out of water. So I'll need to deal with that, which I can do next episode. So I'll be able to go through and take care of all that, though. So, yep, so if you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe if you're not subscribed already. There'll also be a link down in the description, and there'll be a video list on the screen. Words. There'll be a video list on the screen of a previous playlist that I've done on tips for Abiotic Factor as well. So, get in the comments, if there's anything that you want me to explore further, or if there's any suggestions or ideas that you want me to look at, let me know, and I'll try and pop that into future videos. Yeah, until next time, don't forget to be awesome.